Teresa Heath-Wareing, welcome to the Marketing Study Lab podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Brilliant. I've been looking forward to this for ages, so can't wait.
Good.
But just because I've been looking forward to it doesn't mean you escape the random opener, which we always have on the podcast. And the random opener for you, which I kind of got an inkling that you'd like this one from your website, or the final part of the intro to your website, is Schweppes or Fever Tree?
Always Fever Tree.
Okay.
100%. Got like the tonic is half the drink in my case, not 2/3, half the drink. It's got to be a good tonic, always.
Absolutely, yeah. What we've been finding, because since we're spending time at home, we've kind of gone through a fair bit of gin. We're not drinkers, but we've gone through a fair bit of gin, to be fair. And what we find is like Schweppes and Fever Tree, obviously given you have either or, but whatever gin, it changes it massively.
Huge. And I've just found a new tonic which is actually better than Fever Tree.
Okay.
Called, oh god, is it 1749 or so? I'll come back to you with the show notes. It has less quinine in it, so it's amazing. Once you have that tonic and go back to Fever Tree, you're like, oh wow. But it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
But it is much more expensive, so then you're sort of really into the realms of a fairly expensive gin and tonic. And I have expensive taste without even trying, so it just makes the drinks way more expensive. But yes, I love gin, and we have been drinking an awful lot of it while in lockdown, because what else is there to do, quite honestly?
Well, absolutely, that's brilliant. So any of your clients that are listening, or anybody, whatever recommendations Teresa's given you, take it with a pinch of salt for now.
Yeah. Because I'm mainly drinking a lot of gin. Luckily, I work really well on gin. In fact, I come up with all my good ideas when I've had a gin.
It doesn't. Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Right. Okay. I'm afraid we're going to have to get a bit more serious now.
That's fine.
And what I want to know is your story that brings you to this stage in your career, and just explain what you do right now.
Of course. So I am a international award-winning speaker, trainer, and podcast host. And I basically help businesses all over the world with social media and digital marketing specifically. But I've been in marketing now about 16, 17 years, which I think is fairly unusual for my industry, that to have someone who's doing social media stuff that's been in marketing for that long. I have a degree in it, and basically I love it. I literally eat, sleep, breathe this stuff. And I was forever a employee. I joke that I was a very good employee. I like being patted on the head and being told you've done a really good job. And then I went through what I can only describe as a very early midlife crisis, and decided that after my husband had left me and I had got my daughter and myself, she was about 2 or 3 at the time, and he left and I was at home with my daughter, managing to keep the roof above our head. And I decided I'd hand in my notice in my very well-paid marketing job and start my own business, which, you know, is probably a really smart idea. So well, actually, I thought I was going to get another job, and then nothing came. And I thought, okay, my back is against the wall now. What on earth am I going to do? Came up with this crazy idea to start my own business. And everybody literally thought I was crazy. My family, my friends, because I was literally running the house, paying the mortgage, paying for the car, paying for my daughter's nursery. And they were like, you're going to give up a well-paid job to do this? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Thinking, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Anyway, as it was, having that kind of massive motivator of, if I don't earn money, we literally lose the house. I did. And we started off as a marketing consultancy, moved into more of an agency side. And now I spend probably 20% of my time with the agency side, and the rest of my time either training or speaking or doing the podcast, or I have an online digital business. So we have an academy so that people can join the academy, and there's courses in there on how to do marketing for small businesses, and they get onto coaching calls with me, and we do quarterly goal settings and all these other really cool things. So yeah, and I literally love it. I wake up every morning and am thrilled that I get to do this as a job.
That's brilliant. I don't normally track back on people's stages in the story and how they get to where they are now, but one thing that is just absolutely prime for right now, and I feel I was speaking about it this morning with a couple of apprentices actually, and it's a case of like, you say you quit your job, and why wouldn't you? Because you've got loads of pressure and you've got bills to pay and stuff like that. But there's always opportunities out there. And it's so rife right now.
Yeah. You know, and this is what's amazing actually about right now. I did a podcast interview not so long ago, and she said, you know, if someone has been made redundant or not working because of the situation, would you recommend now's a good time to start a business? And it's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You know, because actually one thing that was super interesting was when I started the business, like my sister literally said to me, well, if it doesn't work, you can get another job, can't you? Like I hadn't even started it. And I thought, geez, you're kind of ruling me out here before I've even got going. But what happened was when lockdown happened and when big things in the world happens, is I get to control what happens to me because I run my own business. Yeah. And actually for the first time ever, the people who were employed were the ones who were panicking. And that was never the case, you know, like literally, that was always the safe option. Being employed is the safe option. And then suddenly the world turned on its backside and no longer was that the safe option. And actually for me, I had one of the best months I've ever had, you know, just after lockdown, because I was able to jump into action. I was able to pivot slightly, do what I need to. Luckily, I teach people how to set a business online, pretty key at this point. But, you know, I have seen other businesses that are part of my academy that I've suggested things to, and they've done exactly the same because they were small enough and flexible enough and could tweak and change and move. Whereas some of these big companies that employ lots of people couldn't do that so quickly. So, yeah, I think it's, like I said, for the first time ever, suddenly owning your own business and being your own boss didn't feel like the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah, and I'd implore anybody that's in full-time employment and not enjoying what they do, or even if they're enjoying what they do and they fancy a change, look at what you can do yourself. You don't have to dive right into it. You know, just start it on an evening or whatever, and see where it goes. No pressure and all that kind of stuff, and you'll be amazed with the opportunities that open up.
And also, I joke, in fact, I'm rewriting my website as we speak, and I've changed my heading on something to the accidental entrepreneur, because I never wanted my own business. It was never even a consideration to me. I'm really risk averse. So the fact that I could get on and do it, and I've, you know, touch words, managed to earn money and build my business and build my team and all this sort of good stuff, it kind of took away that thing that, you know, how some people are just born entrepreneurs and start this thing when they're at school and they're trying to do this thing and that thing, and then it's obvious they're going to end up down that route. For me, I'm not like that. So if you have been employed for like 10 years and you're sat there thinking, actually, you know, could I or couldn't I? Yeah, you absolutely could do it. Not a problem. Give it a go.
I'm 100% right behind you there. I'm so risk averse. It's unreal. A year and a half in the making it took me to finally take that leap and think, right, I want to be in charge of what I do and how I live my life. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that one. So let's help a few other people make that decision, or let's help them with how they can do things online. So what I'd like to get into today in terms of actionable tips is look at, as broad as it sounds, sales and marketing. Because that's your expertise and you're the best person I can think of to talk about that. So first and foremost, I want to go basic here. What are the basics you need to market and sell online?
Okay, so it's such a great question, because the first thing you need to realize is it's very different from doing it in person. So there were lots of businesses that were in the academy that when lockdown happened, they were trying to find a way to do it online. And when you're in person, you get to go and meet someone walks into your shop, someone has a conversation with you, someone recommends you to someone, and it's much easier to prove that you are who you say you are and that you're good at what you do. Because if someone's walking into your shop and you're recommending something to them, then it's evident that you know what you're talking about. However, when you're online, that's not the case. So one, your competitors aren't your competitors. So I'll explain that. Basically, on social media, for instance, you're not competing against your competitor. So if you're a florist, you're not competing against another florist. You're actually competing against my family and my friends and all the people that are trying to get my attention on social media. So that's the first thing, that you're actually competing in a very different world. But secondly, our time span and our attention, and I say with a lot of love, and it is coming from love, that when we're online we're a little bit stupid and a little bit lazy, because basically if it's not right in front of our face screaming at us, we are very unlikely to get the hint.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas you could be fairly subtle and calm and sort of gentle with your marketing offline, that is going to be so much harder to get traction online, especially if you're not a massive brand. If you're a big brand, you can do the brand awareness stuff. That's perfectly fine. If you're a smaller business or a smaller company, you need to be really obvious and explicit in terms of, this is who I am, this is why we're brilliant. And one of the things that I sort of harp on a lot about is the fact that you need something consistent content wise to prove to the world you're that expert. You know, you've got to tell me, you've got to convince me. So when I go looking for someone to do that thing that you do, your product or your services, then you need to appear. And when you appear, I need to look at you and go, this person knows what they're talking about. And doing that online is, I was going to say it's much harder, but it's not much harder. It's just different. You've just got to be really explicit in terms of, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I can do for you. So you just have to be, I guess, a little bit more aggressive is probably a better way of putting it. And I know lots of people don't like the idea of the aggressive marketing, but you just need to think, like I said, with kindness, people are a bit lazy and a bit stupid, and you've got to really make it blindly obvious to them who you are and what you do.
And just to add to that, I feel that people that are new to online and sales and marketing online, they get the impression that they do one thing and that's good enough. We'll post this and people will see it and they'll read it and they'll love it and they'll love us. And it's like, well, that is just like being a market stall amongst a billion other market stalls and pretty much just saying, we sell this, see you later, and then packing up, because it's gone, you know, and oh God, you need to be far more vigilant and far more active than a lot of people give credit for if you're not, you know, if you've never been online before in that respect.
That is such a great analogy. I love that, but you're so right. In fact, we had a coaching call this week and like 3 of the members had exactly the same issue. They'd created what we call a lead magnet, and the lead magnet basically gives them their audience, their perfect customer, something away for free, but you need to give them your email address that helps build their email list and that sort of good stuff. They'd created these lead magnets, which were excellent for their industries. And they were like, how many times should I post it? Because I don't want to seem salesy or yucky or like sleazy. And I'm like, are you for real? I said, seriously, I'm telling you now, you could not overdo it with this, because like you said, people don't see it. And if they do see it, they don't pay attention. If they do see it, it may not be the right time. It may not, you know, grab their attention quick enough. They might be in the middle of doing something and think, oh, I'll do it later. And then they don't see it again. So for me, when I do social media, now obviously the world I'm in, I have to do a lot of social media on all the platforms, but I have a category called lead magnets that basically probably 3-4 times a week, I promote the same sort of 6 lead magnets over and over and over again. And they get consistent people sort of opting into them because, like you said, they don't see them. So you really have, like, if you're doing a post a week and you think, oh, that's okay, you've just got to think, that analogy you just said, it's perfect. So, you know, you've got to be really showing up, and that can be hard. It can be really, really difficult.
Yeah, so that brings us nicely on to, and I mean, we've spoken a little bit about it, but the main differences that we can see between marketing and online business and offline business. I know you touched on a few, but I'd like to go a bit deeper into that.
Yeah, so basically with the offline business, people often rely on the relationships. They don't have the systems in place. They don't have the tools in place because of the fact that they're in a store, they make those notes, they write those things down. You know, it's very obvious to remember people. Online, you've got to be a bit slicker. You've got to have some systems and things in place. So the very first thing, like I said, I recommend to everybody is that consistent content. Because imagine if you're going to a networking meeting, if you do old school networking, you're there in the breakfast meeting and you're doing your 60 seconds, well, that is a bit of your content, okay? So you're proving to someone in that 60 seconds or proving to the room in that 60 seconds, I know what I'm talking about. So I need you to do that online. I need you to find a way. So blog, vlog, video, live videos, podcasts, whatever it might be, then the next thing I need you to do online is you need to build an email list. And you'll be amazed at the amount of people who have offline businesses or have been doing work offline and don't have it. Like they'll have a spreadsheet, or it'll be in their invoicing or their payment processor, and it won't be a marketing list, and they've never emailed them because they didn't feel the need to. And this is the other thing where people go, how often should I email? Once a month? I don't want to irritate them. That's 12 emails in a whole year. You are not irritating anybody. And what I say to everybody is, if you irritate someone, they're not your customer. They're not going to buy from you, and let them unsubscribe, let them unfollow you. I promise you, the people who want to follow you, get your content, buy your stuff, they're not going to be unsubscribing by having an email every week. So they need to start building that email list, and you need to give people a reason. Again, like if someone's walking into your store and you go, would you like to get an occasional email from us? I might go, yeah, that's fine. You can add me to the list because I've seen you, I know you, I like you, I've looked at your products. Whereas online, you've got to give me a reason to. And this is where the lead magnet comes in. So for instance, for the knowledge industry, which is what I'm in, it's super easy. I give you some of my knowledge. So I've literally just put together a lead magnet called How to Get Started with a Podcast. It's awesome. Like I go through every single step. I tell you all the things you need to do. I tell you the systems I use, the process I use. And then I even give you my spreadsheet that we use in the business that we manage our podcast with, that basically gives you every step of producing a podcast. So I put together that, I've put it into this really nice document, made it look pretty using Canva, and then I promote it. And I say to people, if you want to start a podcast, you can download this for free. And I give them good value and make it good. We've all downloaded stuff that is rubbish and we think, what was the point in that? It just puts a bad taste in someone's mouth. So, give me something that's really good value, and then I give you my email address and I get that download. And I'm happy to make that trade. But what you've done is you have found someone that obviously wants and likes the thing you sell, because no one is downloading something around marketing if they haven't got a business to market. So I've just done another one really recently about how to launch. So if you've got an online product or service, then I've put together again my whole launch runway and told people how to do it. And that's another great download. So again, you're not going to download that if you're never going to launch something, because why would you? So you're basically getting people who are really perfect for your product or service on your email list. And it's just another way to communicate to them. And I think this is the other thing you have to think about with the online business, is that when someone comes into your store or someone picks up the phone to talk to you and make an order, your attention is like, that's it. You've got their attention. You're having that conversation. And people imagine that putting a post out is the same way. And as you've said, it's not. So what they're thinking is like, they're putting all these posts out on social media and people aren't seeing it, or they think people are. So having an email list is another way in which you can get people on or to see your stuff. So I do both. I'm constantly on social media and I send an email every single week. The way I treat my email list is a bit different, in the fact that I call them love letters, not newsletters. And I write to people as if I am writing a email to one person. And I do give different content on the email than I would on anything else. So being on my email list gives you another bonus, because I'm giving you something else to help you with, or talk about business, or inspire you, or tell you a tool or a tactic or whatever. So it's about that, and it's about that consistent content. Because again, if I'm walking down the high street and I see your store every time I walk down the high street, great, or your restaurant or whatever it might be. But again, we don't see it like that when we need to almost keep appearing every so often, so that when someone comes into the position of thinking, oh, do you know what, I need to get some whatever, that they think of you. And sometimes that can be difficult because you put a lot of work into this and no one buys. And this is what's interesting. So people think, I'll put one post on social media, buy my stuff, and no one buys. And they're like, this is rubbish. Social media doesn't work. And it's like, no, it does work. You've just got to treat it a bit differently. So for me, the online side is, you've still got to build that relationship. You've still got to build that two-way conversation, but everyone expects it to suddenly be like that suddenly they're going to put a post out and someone's going to buy their stuff, and they're not. And that's where the huge difference is, because you've got to have basically a lot of people looking at your stuff to then have a chunk of those people who will get your lead magnet or take your download or go for a discount. And then you'll have a small chunk of those people that will actually end up buying. So you've got to, it's all about putting those numbers in.
Yeah, I completely agree. Going back to the email list, I always use Carpetright as the analogy with an email list. So what I mean by that is that the people on your email list, the people that stay on it and consume your content on that list, it's like having someone walk into a Carpetright store. You ain't going in there unless you want to buy a carpet.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. Like, people that go into Carpetright need a carpet. That's it. There's no brainer.
Yeah,
Because
you
you're not
never go
walking
in
in
and
just to
think,
browse.
yeah, one day I might want a carpet. Let's go and have a
Exactly.
look. No,
Yeah.
of course. You're
And
entirely correct.
yeah, and that's your email list. It's like, people want to buy, might not be. The slight difference there is they might not be right now and all that kind of stuff. But the people on your email list are interested in what you've got to say and what you're buying, what you're selling.
Absolutely. And that's it. And if you've got them on there for a good reason and for the right way, then they are going to be the right people. They are going to be the people that want to buy. And I've had people who've been on my list for years and then buy, because again, it's this relationship. And I use the analogy of, imagine going networking and you walk in and the first thing you do is you meet someone, you're like, hi, I'm Teresa and you're Jeff and lovely to meet you. What do you do, Jeff? I do this. What do you do, Teresa? I do this. Then he hears your 60 seconds. And then next week you go back and you're like, hi, Jeff, how was your weekend? Yeah, good. We went something with the kids. Oh, you've got kids. Yeah, I've got kids. And again, you have this two-way conversation. And you might be going into that networking group for months before you and Jeff actually get to the point of going, Jeff, I could really help you with this. Like, give me a shout if you need a hand. And then you might go, oh, here's a free resource, or here's a download, or go and check out such and such a website. And then eventually Jeff might turn around and go, actually, we could do some help. What have you got? And I go, I've got an academy. You should join it. It's brilliant. Here's the details. Check it out. Online stuff, people think that basically it's the equivalent of walking into a networking group for the first time and going, hi, my name's Teresa. I don't want to know your name, by the way. My name's Teresa. I have an academy. It's $49 a month. It's really good. This is what it includes. Here's the link. Would you like to join? And then they're like, could you imagine doing that in a networking situation? They would think you were insane. They wouldn't buy from you, that's for sure. Whereas the two-way nature is really important. And again, it's like social media is just an online networking tool. That's what it is. And I think it's been taken over by, a marketing sort of idea of, oh, well, we can just shout at the world. And it's like, yeah, you can, but it's certainly not going to do you any good, compared to having a conversation with your audience.
Yeah. So how would you suggest people do use social media? I mean, I know we've spoken about the whole, you don't dive straight in and buy my stuff. But have you got any tips for how we should be using social?
Yeah, like I said, be thinking of it as a communication and a two-way thing. So the first thing you need to do is you need to be consistent, and you don't need to be on every platform. So I am on every platform because I teach people how to use social media, and I'd be pretty poor at it if I wasn't. It's hard work. Someone asked me the other day how much time I spend creating content, and I'd never really thought about it. And if I think about creating content as in I have the podcast, I do the social media, and I create content inside the academy, I reckon I'm probably doing 3 to 4 days a week creating content. So this is hard work. So I'm not going to pretend it's not. So pick the platform that you love and that your customers will be on. So it's no good going, but I love Snapchat if you're dealing with accountants, because I don't think they're going to be on Snapchat. They might be, but you've got to go for the most likely type of thing. So, it might be LinkedIn, it might be Instagram, but if you particularly love that platform, it really helps. Because if you don't, it's going to be really hard work. So pick your platforms, if you can, show up consistently and add value. You've got to think, why do you follow the pages that you follow? If you think of one of the pages you follow, why is that? It obviously does something for you. And often what people want to put out on social media is they want to tell you their product, and they want to tell you how ace it is, and they've got this thing in, and there's a sale, and look, and it's all about them. It's not. Our customers don't care about us. I'm sorry. It's really hard to say. It's about the customer. So as the customer, if I'm reading your social media posts or if I'm seeing your stuff, what am I getting from it? Now, of course, I want you to occasionally put in we've got a new product just in case you want it. It's brilliant. But you've got to think about me and what I need as your customer. So creating content that is helpful to them. So for instance, obviously one of the things I promote on social media is the podcast, because that's a really good, helpful resource. I talk about things like, so I share things like Social Media Examiner, because they do some great blog posts. I'll do tips. I might do Instagram stories about what's happening. I'll give people behind the scenes views on things. But you've really got to think, I do on Instagram, I do lots of quotes and book recommendations, because I read lots of books as a business owner. I listen to podcasts. I, do all this sort of thing. So I know my audience might want the same. So it's about really understanding who your customer is and what do they need to get from you. And like I said, obviously you're going to put in some of those kind of salesy things, but you've really got to think it's about them, not me. What does my ideal customer want? Am I going to keep them coming back to this page? Because that's the thing. Because like I said, you're not up against your competitor, you're up against people who actually post things that I want to see. You're up against, like, Kylie Jenner. My husband walked into my office this morning. I'm not even kidding you. I'd opened Instagram and there was like a really underwear shot of Kylie Jenner, and my husband is like, what are you looking at? And it's like, well, I just happen to like watching, because we go to LA quite a lot and we're missing it dreadfully. And I just love the fact that they are in LA, so we love the Kardashians. It's like a guilty pleasure, I can't tell you. But yeah, you got to think, and seriously, if you've ever followed them, their houses are unbelievable, their lives are unbelievable. So that's why I follow it, because I find it entertaining. So if you're a business, what are you going to do for me? So I've just had, we were just talking gardens before we came on.
Yeah, we were in depth.
We are so middle-aged, aren't we? Jesus, man, what does it come to?
I hadn't thought about that.
Honestly, we are sad. I used to think I was cooling down with the kids. I am so not. But we were just talking about the fact of garden furniture. Now, like, I bought this new garden furniture and I was looking at some of their Instagram stuff, and they've got some of the most beautiful gardens out there to inspire me and to make me be like, oh, I love that. I love that design. I love what they did over there. I love this thing. And it's not just about, here's our garden furniture. It's about other stuff as well. So you've got to think about, what does that customer want to see? What are their, what is the thing that they're kind of coming back to your page for? But you've got to show up consistently, because there's this word called algorithm, which, whether you know what it means or not, it's basically just a fancy word for a set of rules. And it looks at how you use your social media. So it looks at me as an individual and goes, okay, Teresa likes watching videos, and she might like particular videos of this type of thing, or whatever it is. It's probably serving me a lot of garden stuff at the moment, but it shows you what you like to see. So if you're not posting consistently and people aren't interacting, then you're basically going to disappear out of their feed and they're not going to see your stuff. So it's really, really important. The consistency is important. Consistency doesn't have to be frequency, though. It doesn't mean you've got to post 3 times a day. It just means you've got to post hopefully once a day. That would be lovely. But it just means being consistent.
And just start, and like you say, it's some people listening will think, well, I haven't got time to be on all the platforms. I haven't got time to post 3 times a day. I haven't got time to do a podcast. That's absolutely 100% fine.
Of course it is.
For example, LinkedIn, just post once a day. When you open your shop, or you come down and you're having your cornflakes, whatever it might be, in your beautiful garden. Just post something on LinkedIn that's helpful, and start. Just do that. 10-15 minutes, and that is all. Just start.
The other thing is, and that is such great advice, because seriously, people seriously overthink this stuff. And it's like, I always ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? Is anybody going to die that I put a post out and maybe spelt something wrong or didn't find the most perfect image? No one's going to die. Just do it. The other place that, if you're thinking, well, I don't know what to post, first off, I can tell you there's a million things to post. So don't ever, you've just got to do a bit of research. And seriously, you are not going to be short of stuff to post. But one of the first places you can start is, what do you get asked every single day, right? What is the one thing that people, when they phone up to buy your thing and they walk into the shop or they have a conversation with you, that you think, how many flipping times have I had to answer this question? That's where to start. Answer those questions in a more public forum like social media, and that'll be really helpful to other people who potentially are looking to buy your product or service.
Just don't, and also just to add that, don't ever think that you haven't got anything that could add value to somebody, to one person, that, like, minimum one person.
Sure.
Always,
Absolutely.
everyone has got something of value that they know that someone else in the world doesn't.
And you know what? The other thing, that is perfect, because the other thing that people do is they think, oh, well, so-and-so said that. So, you know, why would I do it? Because they're out there doing that. And, well, do you know what? There are a gazillion, I'd probably just made that up, but there are an awful lot of social media and marketing people out there. So what makes me different to everybody else? What gets me on a stage over someone else? Me. And how I come across and what I say and how I do it and my experience and all the various little teeny tiny things that can't be replicated. So just because you might be a plumber or a carpet fitter or whatever it might be, and you might think, yeah, well, there's loads of people who do what I do, and you know, and they've put stuff out online and therefore I can't do it. Absolutely. Because they might not have liked the look or the way, or it might not have resonated with them, and they particularly like the way you do it or the way that you talked about it. So absolutely, you know, don't panic that you think, well, surely everybody knows, because I can promise you without doubt you might know this thing but not everybody else does. So don't ever think that you can't say something really basic, and just think about, you know, it doesn't matter if someone else has done it, you can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. To quote a previous guest, John Asperian, safe is the new risky. And it's, you know, it's so true. Like, don't be offensive. Don't go on and cause problems. But, you know, you don't have to play it safe, because safe is bland and dull and mundane, and you'll blend in.
And can I tell you, right? So obviously I'm on social media. Instagram is my favorite, and I do a lot of Instagram stories. And when the garden started, I started posting garden watch, that I would go down every day, because we've got these guys coming in doing the garden for us. And I would go down every day and I would film what they had done, and I would explain where we were at and what we were doing. And I swear to God, I have never had so much interaction in all my life, right? The marketing stuff, they're like, dull as dishwater.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's because it was different and interesting and personal. You know, again, I shared something, a post I did recently. I shared that unfortunately a member of my family is very unwell, and I didn't go into any detail about it. It's not that I didn't want to share it. It was just that, you know, I felt at that point I just needed to say why I hadn't maybe been showing up as much. And the amount of stuff that I got back because of that, because I opened up, because I showed a bit of authenticity or a bit of personal or a bit of, you know, so going on some days going, do you know what, I've had a really bad day today, can't get motivated, you know, that actually, because I think we're coming out of the world of social media that is the Kardashians, you know, because it's not realistic, and we can't resonate with that. You know, I can't look at their life and think, oh, they feel the same struggles as I do, because like it certainly is not. So as people who own businesses, as companies, we need to be saying, you know, we're missing being in the office, we're missing having our team around us, we're trying to work out, you know, ways in which we can keep our customers safe, and showing some of that vulnerability, which I know is like authenticity and vulnerability are thrown around like you wouldn't believe, but it is true. It's the real people that come across. And again, showing a bit of my personality, that's what makes people want me over someone else, maybe, because they know more about me and they can get to like me and trust me and know I exist, and that I'm not one of these people that are like, everything's perfect, I'm perfect, you should all be doing this amazing stuff, why can't you manage it? Because I know how hard work it is. So it's like, I'm going to be really honest about that, and that will resonate with my customer.
So, and again, I think we've highlighted a couple throughout this conversation, but what are these mistakes, the fundamental mistakes that people are making when first setting up online? Because I'm pretty sure some people that are listening will be thinking, well, I can do this, you know, I can give it a go, but then there's bound to be some pitfalls that you see time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. So one, they try and do too much and can't do any of it. Or they get completely paralyzed, right? Because for one system, there are 300. You know, for one way of doing something, there are about 5 million systems that can do that. So they find themselves like, but should I use this or should I use this? So I had an amazing lady who worked with me, and basically she wanted to do an online sort of coaching membership for her audience who couldn't afford a coach, who couldn't afford someone one-to-one. And for weeks and weeks, until I finally put my foot down, she was like, should I have a Thinkific or Kajabi or this system or Learn whatever? And it's like, right, I'm going to allow you another 5 days. After that, I'm drawing the line on it. You've got to stop having this conversation because, you know, I've used so many systems in the past and you've just got to find what resonates with you. But anyway, she was letting it stop her. So that was a huge mistake. So I was like, right, what is the absolute bare minimum that you can do? So tell me what the product is. And she's like, it's a group coaching. So I was like, okay, you need something like Zoom in order to do group coaching. Yeah, fine. Well, that's not a membership. As in, you don't need a membership platform for that. You need somewhere for them to be on an email list. Have you got an email list? Have you even got MailChimp? Yeah, fine, great, that's good. Have you got some way of them having a payment processor that, well, I've got PayPal, they could just pay me in PayPal? Brilliant. Right, go and do a live tomorrow and tell people what you're doing. And she got 12 people in her membership and she hadn't even got a membership. And yet she'd sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And basically I had to get it to a point and say, you're holding yourself up, and actually there are people out there who need what you're doing and you're doing them an injustice by getting stuck in the weeds. And I think that is a huge thing. So I think there's an element of, yes, you want it to be right and you want these, you know, there are amazing platforms, and I am the queen of a million tools. I can tell you so many cool tools that do amazing things. So either come to someone like me and go, I want to do this, what would I use? And let me go use that one, really unbiasedly about it, or just make a decision, go with something. You can always change it. If it's not right, you can change it. So getting stuck in the weeds, expecting something too quick. So literally it's like, you know, the whole, it was out of Wayne's World, but I think it was out of something before Wayne's World. The whole, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Online, that is the most hilarious thing in the world, right? If you build it and you tell them and tell them and tell them and tell them and then tell them in a different way and give them a different image, put it in a different place, put it in a blog and a podcast and do something else and do something else, then eventually someone might. And I know that sounds so hard and like, you must be something going, do you know what, I'm not even going to do any of this. It's not that, it's just managing your expectations. The podcast is a perfect example, okay? So I started the podcast. And my assistant at the time said to me, how long are we going to do the podcast until you decide whether it's going to be a good thing for you to spend your time on? Because it's a lot of work, you know, it's a lot of work doing a podcast. So I said, right, 12 months. And she was like, 12 months? That is like crazy long time. And I said, I just need to, if I'm telling everybody to be consistent, I need to be consistent and I need to give myself 12 months. So started the podcast. Month 9, right? So the podcast had grown slowly and every month it was going up, but not massive. And I was getting, you know, a few hundred listens on an episode. Month 9, it literally looked like it shot through the roof. I don't know what I did. My husband, my assistant, the team were like, what did you do that month? And I'm like, nothing different.
You spoke about gardens.
Yeah, that's what it was. I put something like personal up, probably told a story about my husband. He's normally featured in many things. But, you know, it was almost like people were waiting until, oh, hang on. And then suddenly it was found and it's continued to grow ever since. But what if I had said 6 months? What if I had got to, oh, no one's listening. What if I'd done 3 posts and went, well, this is a waste of time. Yeah. You've got to give it that time. It's really hard, but you have got to give it that time and consistency.
And I think the thing that people get wrong, the misconception there, is the fact that we use online tools and platforms and whatever for efficiency, for speed, for, you know, Amazon Prime, perfect example. We always use Amazon in marketing, don't we? But, you know, perfect example. We use it for speed and efficiency. We don't use it for the experience because we want the experience to be boom, done. Yeah. But from a business point of view, from the inside looking outside, it's completely, you're not going to get that speed because you need to build things, like you said.
Yeah. Absolutely, because like I said, you know, you can't just put something on the internet. The internet's a massive place. And, you know, tell your few mates and that'll do it. Absolutely, it won't do it. So having that tenacity, and when I look at like people in my industry in particular that have huge, you know, membership programs or huge course programs, and they are killing it, all they did different to everyone else is show up when no one was listening, is literally be so tenacious that they were like, this is going to happen. I don't care how long. But the problem is when, you know, like your competitors, if you're seeing your competitors all the time, you think, well, you know, it's worked for them, it's easy for them. Well, the thing is, you didn't see them when they were trying. You know, we see people when they've got to a certain size or when they're particular, but what you didn't see is they were showing up every single day posting something. They were growing their, you know, their online presence. They were producing content. They were doing all these things that maybe you're not doing and you didn't see, and then it paid off, and then they started to be in your eye line, and then you're thinking, okay, where the hell have they just come from? And they haven't just come from anywhere. It's taken time.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing for me in terms of like the mistake that people make is the fear thing. So they literally sit paralyzed by fear. So they're scared to post. What if people say something? Well, we've just said, you're lucky if people see it. Like, I'd be grateful for it. You know what I mean? So what if they say something? What if I get it wrong? What if it doesn't look right? What if this? What if this? And then it's like the fear eats them up. One thing that I talk about all the time is, again, online businesses, this is crucial, is you've got to show your face. It doesn't mean you've got to do a video every live to camera, you know, or you've got to have a photo shoot. It just means I've got to see there's a human behind it. And therefore I want to see an occasional picture of your face. If you go onto my Instagram feed, you will see my face in every 3 images because my business is me. So I can't not. But it helps build the trust. It helps build that relationship. But so one thing they're terrified of is showing their face. And again, it's like, you know, they're like, oh, I don't look great, or I don't this, but what's the worst that could happen? Again, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to irritate people. I'm scared in case people think I'm being salesy. And I use this analogy all the time in the membership where I say to them, okay, and it was used against me, which is why I know it works. So someone is in a lake, your customer is in a lake and they are drowning, like literally drowning, metaphorically, drowning, okay? And you're stood at the side of the lake holding on to the buoy or the ring or whatever it is. And if you just threw it out to them, you could save them, okay? But you're stood there going, but what if they don't like the way I say it? Or what if they don't, you know, what if they think I'm selling to them? What if they think I'm being irritating? What if they think that... So you're holding on to this thing. You're not wanting to tell anybody or do anything about it because you're terrified of how that might look. And they are drowning. They are literally drowning there, begging, maybe not verbally, but they are needing someone to help them. So if you throw it out and they go, no, I don't want it, it's fine, then fine, absolutely not a problem. That's not for them. But if you're too scared to even attempt to have that conversation with them, then they're never going to know. And what's going to happen, and I say again this to the members all the time, is someone who's not as good as you, someone who doesn't care as much, who doesn't put the effort in, they're going to come along, they're going to go, check me out, I'm amazing, I can do this thing, and they're going to go with them and they're going to waste their money. So you're doing them a complete injustice by not putting yourself out there, by not helping them, by not offering that service. Because at the end of the day, every business out there offers a solution to a problem. Whether that solution is, I need some new tennis balls for the dogs and I'm going to whip on Amazon last night and they arrived today, that's still a solution. That's still fixed to my problem. Whether the solution is, I don't want to cook dinner tonight and you know, takeaway are serving my problem. It doesn't have to be a coach or a counselor or, you know, some kind of amazing kind of transformation thing, but we all have something in our businesses that we offer that helps someone. So by not wanting to share that, by not wanting to put yourself out there, you're holding back and you're doing your customers an injustice. And I always like to ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? Will anybody die? No. You know, and I've had some pretty serious jobs in the past where, you know, people were, you know, I used to years ago, I was a director of a care company. I went in as a marketing person and then got promoted. And we used to have children in care. Like, it was really serious stuff. And when I left that job, because obviously I'd come away from marketing and I was like, oh, hang on, this isn't what I do. And actually this job is like 24/7 and exhausting. When I came away from there, it was like, no matter what marketing emergency anybody could have confronted me with, it's like, no one's dying though, are they? Literally no one's dying.
I'm so with you on that one. People get so hung up about the weirdest of things and you're like, there's nothing, as long as no one's dying, there's nothing that can't be fixed. There just isn't. There just isn't.
And people make mistakes all the time. We're human, you know. So if I put a post out and I've made a mistake, especially when I speak on camera, so, you know, we do this podcast, I do my podcast, I don't hardly edit it at all, because do you know what? If we were having a conversation like you and I are, I'm not perfect. Neither are you. You know, we put ums and ahs, and we pause, and we need to think for a second, and we might forget our train of thought. And so I just think the more real that I can show that I'm just the same as everybody else, and you're the same as everybody else, and actually that's a good thing. So, and the other beauty about where we are in the world right now is people's expectations of stuff have dropped, in the sense of, we watch the news and we are watching them interview someone with the camera down here, up their face with a light behind them. It's bad, right? So if that can happen on the BBC News, I am telling you, you being maybe not totally perfect. You know, so what happened is, when we went into lockdown, everybody worked from home. I was on all these different Zoom calls, I was being interviewed for things, and everybody was like, look at your office. And it's like, yeah, but I do this for a living. Like, I have had an office like this for ages because I needed a good backdrop. You know, you have literally just appeared home in the last week. You're setting your expectations way too high for yourself. So just do it, because the only way you can ever get better at showing up, the only way you can ever feel comfortable, is by doing it over and over and over again. So don't let that fear hold you back, because what's the point? One more last thing on this. Okay. So people get terrified that someone's going to say something mean. I can pretty much count on one hand how many times someone has said something mean to me, and a lot of it is just pointless. I once had someone write a 1,000-word blog post about me. Wow. 1,000 words. Like, I was impressed, man. I was seriously, that is a lot of work, right? So I'd done this talk. This woman had taken great umbrage to what I said and wrote this blog post. Funny enough, she was local. I very rarely get anybody from my wider community. So obviously I deal with people from all over the world, but it's normally always someone who is in like a, I don't know, 5-mile radius of my house, which is just weird. But, you know, so she wrote this blog post, and I was doing a talk the next day, and I got, understandably, and as you would, and I'm not saying, you know, I was like cool instantly, because I certainly wasn't. And I was sat there like, oh my God, this woman hates me. Oh my, you know, well, she's going to be there. I feel sick. I don't want to talk on stage. What? And she'd said things like, she's supposedly a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketers. And I was, you know, so stuff that like, you just like, that's ridiculous. Anyway, my stepdaughter walked in. She'd have been like 19, 20 at the time. And she walked in, I was like, oh my God, Morgan, this is awful. Like, you know, this woman said all this stuff. She's written, look at this, she said this, and she said this. She never mentioned me by name though. So I knew it was me. Yeah. If you had been in that talk, you'd have known it was me, but no one else would have known. Okay. And my stepdaughter looked at me and she went, you know what that means, T? The kids call me T. And I'm like, what? She went, you made it. And just walked away. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. So I like it. Honestly, you know, all it does is make me worry about them, because if they've got the energy to say something mean, then their life cannot be that happy. You know what I mean? Because the rest of us don't feel the need to go and tell someone where they're going wrong. You know, if I'm going to write a 1,000-word blog post, I mean, it's hard work. I'd have trouble writing it in the first place, to be honest, which is why I have a podcast, not a blog. Yeah. But I certainly wouldn't waste my energy on doing it on that. So, like I said, I just feel for those people. So if you think you're going to do something and people are going to jump on and say mean things, I promise you they're not. I've had lots of offers of marriage, some really inappropriate offers as well, but not much hate. So you'll be fine, honestly. I love it. And if anyone's ever feeling down about that, in terms of they do get negative reviews, for example, just go on Amazon and look at J.K. Rowling, look at Harry Potter, look at some of the best-selling books in the world, and they won't all be 5 stars, believe me. You can't please everybody, can you? Absolutely. And do you know what? They're not for you. If someone doesn't like the way I talk, if they don't like the things I joke about, if they don't like the fact that I am incessant about gin, and, you know, often if you're in the academy and we have an evening coaching call, I'm sat there with a gin. Nice. You know, if I'm not for you, then that's absolutely fine. There are millions of other people that could be. So, yeah, don't worry about them, honestly. Cool. Excellent. Right. Are you ready for some quick fire questions to finish off? Go for it. Brilliant. So I'm going to add one in that you don't know about. So this is going to be the first one. I'm struggling on one already. Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. So I think I'll leave it till the end, though, just to add that pressure. So what's that source of information you can't live without? So explain what you mean by source of information. Yeah. Give me an example. So it's probably Instagram for you, to be fair. So it's an app, a website, a platform,
a media news outlet or whatever, which you want to go to, or you feel that you have to go to for your info? Like if it disappeared, you'd be gutted.
Yeah, Insta. I love Instagram.
Yeah,
It's great. I love a
cool.
story.
What was the last thing you remember Googling?
Oh man. It will be a how to something. What did I Google last? I bet it's something to do with the garden.
Let's leave that there. Let's just
Something
leave that one
really
there.
sad, like how not to kill lavender because I've already killed it. I've already had it a week.
Brilliant. I love it. Okay, if you, apart from not how to not kill lavender, if you could tell your 10-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Don't worry about it. Honestly,
Cool.
What's the
most important thing we should know about marketing right now?
That it's really personal and you need to be personal, that people don't trust marketers, and that in order to prove that you are who you are and you're good at what you do, then authenticity, vulnerability, being open to saying to everybody, you know, this is the good, bad, and the ugly, I think is really important right now from a marketing point of view.
Okay. And final two questions, probably the most important questions. First one is, what's your favorite gin?
Oh, that is a great question because I flipping love gin. There's loads of them. But if I could only have one, oh God, that is a really tough one. Okay, I'm going to go very British, and I'm going to go with Chase.
Okay.
Elegance.
Okay.
Or elegant or elegance. That's a really good gin.
Okay, I haven't tried that one.
It's not cheap.
Yeah,
but that's me all over. Very expensive taste. But yeah, that's a really good one. But honestly, like Monkey 47, Botanist, and then there's these amazing ones. I see it. This is my favorite subject. There's this amazing, I'm going to shout out this store, which isn't far from me, called Moonshine and Fuggles. They sell online, and basically they have loads of amazing gin. And Philippa, who owns it, she knows my taste in gin now, that I can walk in and pick one up and go, with this? She's like, no, not for you. Because I like native strength gin. I like punch you in the face gin. So there's this amazing brand that they have one called, oh my goodness. I think they got one called the Ginger Cat and something about a monkey, winter monkey, something. Again, I'm going to send this to you because it's so good. And It's in these lovely, like, opaque, old-fashioned bottles with a cork in the top. Nice. And this beautiful branding. They have one called Dragonfly, and they're cloudy. They're to do with how they're distilled. When you put the tonic in, they go cloudy. But they are amazing as well.
Right. Wow. Aces. So most important question, if people want to find out more about you and what you do, where are you pointing them? Where should they go?
So you can basically search Teresa Heath-Wareing in Google and you'll find my face many times. Go to your favorite platform and find Teresa Heath-Wareing on there, or you can search for Marketing That Converts podcast and I'm there as well.
Fantastic. Teresa, thank you so much for joining me today. Absolute pleasure to have you on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Peter.